Hey friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Come With Me video. I always get so excited when we get to go to the cinemas together because it's rare these days. A lot of people have been asking me about the film Cursed, The Cursed. It isn't out in Australia and I don't think it's coming out. But what is coming out is Studio 666. It is being released today and I am so excited. I was a big Foo Fighters fan. I mean, back in like my early teens, and I don't think anything's wrong with Foo Fighters. I think they are a very wholesome band. Favorite song always, Everlong. But this, if you have not heard about it, is a Foo Fighters horror movie. So this was filmed in secret during the pandemic, and the director for this, BJ McDonald, does music videos. So I thought this was just going to be like an extended music kind of video clip. We've seen a couple of people do these kinds of horror movies. I believe Billie Eilish either has one coming out or has done one, but it actually goes for a pretty substantial time. It goes for 1 hour and 46 minutes, very precise, and it looks to be insane. Obviously Foo Fighters, they're fun, and this is exactly what kind of movie I'd expect. It looks like it's about them going to go record their next studio album. It's kind of like a promo for that in a way, which usually these like music movies kind of are, and they go into this house that they rent to make this album, and in there, you know, chaos ensues. I'm assuming it's a bit of a haunting, a little bit of demons. I think it's gonna be like, in my head, like Evil Dead. Maybe they read some evil book and, you know, let out a curse or something like that, some ancient evil. But I very much think it's gonna be wacky, it's gonna be wild, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I am just really excited to check out this movie. It's gonna be wacky, it's gonna be colorful, and it's gonna be quite modern. But what I did not realize until like sitting down now is who's in the film. So I thought it was just gonna be the band. But we've got Jenna Ortega, Whitney Cummings, Will Ford, Jeff Garlin. It's a full house. It's very interesting the way it's casted. So I'm excited. Jenna obviously was in Scream, and I mean, for me, she wasn't the standout in the Scream movies, but I have seen her in a couple of things since then, and I think she's an incredible actress. So I'm like a new fan of her, so I'm very excited to see her in this film. And I'm just excited to see Dave Grohl and see what happens. This is going to be a strange experience for someone who is a horror fan foremost. And if you are watching this and you haven't seen any of my videos, hi, my name's Emma. I'm also known as Spooky Astronauts here on YouTube, and I do 2 videos every single week talking about horror movies and yeah, just getting into it. So it's a very fun meeting when something that you like, have nostalgia to, you know, marries up with horror. So let's dive in and let's see Studio 666, which I love the name, of course. Let's go and check out this film and see if it's worth your time, and hopefully it's showing around you and I can tell you whether it's worth going to the cinema or just renting at home. I totally nearly dropped the camera. Anyway, let's go check it out. Friends, I just finished watching Studio 666. Sorry, the lighting is crazy because this is real life. That movie was so much fun. I guess I have to start off by saying, obviously this is a movie that is dedicated to Foo Fighter fans. It's about Foo Fighters, the band. So a lot of it comes from, I wouldn't say it's like a deep knowledge, although there's probably some like jokes that totally went over my head with the music industry. But it definitely is catered towards those kinds of fans. The movie is a comedy horror that is so self-aware, and that's why I really liked it. There's a really easy way a film like this could just be cheesy and silly and yeah, just stupid, but in this way, being self-aware with the performances and the storyline, it played into itself, and it was just a good time. This film really does not take itself seriously. So the film is about, as I predicted, about a bunch of guys who are in Foo Fighters who move into a house to record their 10th record, but this house has some history, and you know, before they know it, they're in pretty deep. The film is also, I mean, you can really see the love of horror in it. There is so much homage and Easter eggs and just like little bits and pieces that are like just taken snapshots from horror movies that we all love. I would really say that this film is The Shining meets Evil Dead meets Tenacious D, Pick of Destiny. It's really got all of that wrapped into it, and what I really like is it's almost wholesome in a way because it's so self-aware and so silly and so campy and just so fun. Like, it just, the whole aim of this movie is to be fun, and it's not to really take itself seriously, as I've already said. But there is some surprises along the way. I don't want to say too much, but horror fans will be completely spun out, as I was, with some of the cameos, and music fans. There's some really great cameos in this movie, and it's also done in a very interesting way where I thought it was going to be a little bit more polished, and it is a little bit more down to earth. It's a little bit more rustic, and yeah, it's very interesting because it goes through this whole kind of stage with, I mean, the cinematography in it. Some moments, I mean, they really take time and energy into what they're producing. They have some drone shots of them just driving in, but then they have some really simple shots throughout that aren't like overly graded or anything like that, color graded. So it's really interesting where they went with that. And a great example of that is the special effects. So this film has, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you, one of the most brutal deaths I've ever seen in a horror movie. It really does. And when you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But some of the other special effects, like obviously the house is, you know, filled with evil, and there's some like shadow things, and those are kind of dicey. There's some green screen work that's really over the top and exaggerated, and that's kind of the fun of it. But at the same time, it's very interesting because that you have these like insane kills with this really cheap generic moments, like cheap generic special effects. So it's really interesting in that way that it's kind of balanced out, and I like that because it is showing that it's not taking itself too seriously, but it does have the money to do so. Dave Grohl is so good in this, and it just makes you fall in love with the band all over. But it's also very interesting because this is based on his idea, and there is some kind of themes running throughout. Of course, it's like joking about, musicians and all like, groupies and all that kind of stuff. But there's also this heavy layer about musicians and their ego. And I mean, you could take this film so many different ways, but I really do think it's quite surface level, which is totally fine. And it's just fun. It's just a fun movie that surprisingly had me laughing out loud as much as it had me gasping and shocked at some of the brutality. They had such a good balance, and it's really hard to find that balance without being disgusted. It was so funny. Even though this is completely brutal in everything it does, it still feels really wholesome, and I like something that can kind of like take the mickey out of itself or take the piss out of itself and be just that. It's not making fun of anyone else, it's just making fun of itself. And it's just a way to do it that it's just, I feel like it just has this sweet spot where it feels really wholesome, and that's probably really strange to say. But I just think this was such a good idea and so fun and just what we needed, just what you needed 2022. And especially seeing it at the cinema. In this video you would have seen I was lucky enough to go to a small screening at independent cinema near me. I love Luna, and they actually had a tribute band for Foo Fighters playing beforehand, and it really is worth the atmosphere of seeing this at the cinema because it is a laugh out loud and shocked moment kind of film. It does not, as I keep saying, take itself seriously, and these are the kinds of films you want to see with an audience, and you want to kind of laugh out loud and enjoy that as a crowd, especially when there's some really cool cameos and surprising moments. It's really fun to kind of share that with someone, and I find those films are like, it's not as rewarding when you watch them by yourself because you end up just messaging your friends and being like, oh my god, that part when this happened. Overall, I really enjoyed this film. In a weird way, it kind of reminded me of my love for Psycho Goreman. I know they're not alike, but it's the same kind of thing where it's so self-aware and just a roller coaster ride of absolute wackiness, and it was just really interesting what they did with the special effects. So if you have seen it, I'd love to hear what your thoughts or your breakdown is on the special effects, because one moment it's just like so laughable and silly intentionally, and then the next moment it is so brutal, and I'm like, is this really gonna happen? And it happens, and it just takes your breath away. And I was just blown away by some of that. Dave Grohl is so fun. What a cool dude. And he really reminded me of Jack Black in this movie. I know I said Tenacious D before, but he really did. Just some of the humor. But yeah, overall, it's like this weird balance of being this wholesome comedy brutality. Only a horror fan would say that, I'm sure. I'm gonna give this one a personal score of 7. I thought it was really enjoyable. The one thing I will say about it is I felt like it did go for 15 minutes too long. I liked all of the parts they included, and I understand why they had the progression that was like a little bit slower, and they didn't want to go straight into it, but I do feel like there was a lot of filler, that at least those parts could be condensed. I don't think that there's any scenes or any aspects I would have cut, but they could have just condensed a lot of it, because I felt like it was a little bit over the top, which, I mean, it's probably intentional as well, because that's the whole point of it. It's meant to be like, you know, just outrageous. For originality, I'd probably give it a 4. I don't think it's quite original at all. It definitely takes a lot of different ideas, and we've seen this kind of storyline before, but it doesn't mean it's not fun to revisit. And for scare, you know what? I would have given it a really low score, but I just can't believe how brutal it was. It's really, really brutal. I would probably give it a 6, because it's so stupid, but it's so brutal. I know I've been saying recently gore a lot for scare, but I really feel like films in the last couple of years have played a lot more on gore to disturb the viewers than actual jump scares or scary moments or ambience. But yeah, let me know what you think about that, and let me know what your scores are if you've seen this film. I do recommend seeing it in the cinema if you can, safely. Yeah, I really do. And if you do watch it at home, highly recommend watching it with someone else, or doing like a watch party online with a couple of your friends, because it's something you'll want to watch with other people for sure, because you'll want to talk about it. And there's so many things I wanted to mention, but because this is spoiler free, I am not going to mention them, because I can't wait to see what you all think when it surprises you like it surprised me. It was a very good surprise. Anyway, I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know if you've seen Studio 666 down in the comments, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.